Hello everyone, so I'm going to do some predictions. I've got a few editions of predictions which are going to range between the mixed bag sort of predictions, monthly predictions, as well as ongoing. So, I've even done a prediction of a month where I've tied it in with predictions that could be over the next 20 years. So today I'm going to focus on July, but I'm going to throw in some other predictions. I do suggest you look at the themes 2025 and the recent predictions that I've done because they're still planning out. And I don't want to repeat because I'm also not pinpointing a lot of stuff like some predictions I did because I don't want to cause any fear, and I don't want to bog on about certain weather and stuff like that. But it's sometimes something does need to be repeated, but without being specific of a state or town, etc. So within July, there's no need for us to, and this is also guidance. So in them, I'll also give us individual guidance as opposed to collective only. Um, it's not a month to be passive. It's not a great month for travel, especially after mid of the month is probably not good. In terms of there might be delays, there might be mishaps, that kind of stuff that would frustrate you. I'm not talking about seeing navigation issues, but there could be. So if you're thinking, I want to plan a very long trip to the other side of the world and around the world for July, it's probably not the best month to do it. But if you've got travel, then go ahead, just go earlier, check stuff, etc. So it's the summer, some of us have already got travel plans, so that's what it is. We need to continue to build strong relationships. We need to work through our communities and overall those relationships that seem genuine and authentic to us. At the same time, I think July is and there's already this energy of relationships getting shaken up in our personal lives, and overall of our overhaul of our personal values as well. So you'll have to let me know in the comments if you're seeing this or you see this come through in July, but it's definitely an energy which is also going to then make us feel like we're reflecting on foundations that we're trying to build in our lives individually or with a spouse. But I think it kind of breaks down to individually. Some of us during July onwards, we might find that whatever, something that we felt really tied into, we might decide to step away from. And that could be an energy that goes on for 7 years. So it's not going to be all of a sudden, but you're going to feel the energy of things that might not be working, that you want to build a foundation that's also aspiring. And I would say spiritual, in the connection of spiritual, that your belief in spiritual, not a man-made religion. We see foundations of possibly new leaders and governments, that could be aspiring, that are going to start to trickle through. We won't see them like this person is running for this, no, but there's going to be trickles of messages around that coming through. And we're also going to see issues around regimes and government shake-up and changes. And I think I already mentioned this, and we are seeing this. So I'd go back to the various predictions that I've done. There's going to be a lot of deployment and AI discussions that could cause drama. Okay, tech disruption in the workforce, a workforce regime or exposures around workforces and regimes, where it's either the regime or the government that are scrutinized because it's outdated kind of stuff, right? We see an ideal society to live by, and so there's a crumbling and an exposure of what needs to go, and the idealistic society that was once idealistic is not anymore the idealistic, the aspiring, the society that we need, and that's getting crumbled away. I do think I saw like a government or leaders, and it could be DS, looking at buffers for not DS, sorry, hatters, the whiters, buffers for cyber security. Okay, because I think also more countries are getting really paranoid about the cyber security, especially when they're forming different alliances and breaking away from old alliances, as well as the wars and unrest that we're seeing. So with that, I see like drones and also AI and intelligence for also breaking encryption and spying, and that could be both allies and non-allied countries. So this is going to obviously be July theme, but it's going to go on beyond July. That's why I don't like to just say the monthly and that's it. But if you're a subscriber, if you regularly watch the videos, or you're a member of Patreon, you understand that it's never just siloed to 1 month. I mean, it's very easy to do that if I have like a government deck or a conspiracy deck, because you pull cards, it'll say plane crash, and then it's like, yes, I see a plane crash, which apparently is what I'm seeing is what's doing well. Maybe that's what people like, and it would be a lot easier, wouldn't it? So like I said, there's high energy of delays, kind of mishap, communication breakdowns, around travel and tech bloops as well. So this is not going to be only worldwide, but I think on an individual level, more so around the after the mid-month, after the full moon, maybe the third week onwards, or just before the third week, mid of the second week. Yeah, heading into the third week, what you would call the third week, 7, 14, 21, around, I'd say around the 17, 18. AI, like I've said, will have a mind of its own in the future. It could also get an encryption of its own language, because it's learning our minds as we're teaching it, right? So this means that it can pass. I see that it can pass on coded messages, which is a language between themselves. And I think we really need to be careful, because it's where I've said that it's going to be very beneficial, but it can be malefic if we don't be careful and if it's in the wrong hands. So, yeah. I also think we're going to hear a bit more of like psychedelics, either new or the continuation of this sort of psychedelic ayahuasca, some kind of breakthrough. I hope that first part recorded, with the revolution of our mind. And I've mentioned about breakthrough in mind diseases, mental health coming through. There's going to be, the crumbling of dictatorship is definitely coming. Some governments we're going to see in July, you're going to see that. I think I mentioned Keir Starmer in the most recent one as well. So look at those predictions. we also are coming for where I mentioned the king as well. And the trickles of the new coming forward, previews. We'll need to look closely and connect dots to really understand or see previews of new coming in. But we will be able to see if we're connected, and it's that level of consciousness of when we're ready to, or if we're watching these videos, what doesn't and who doesn't have staying power anymore. Yeah, I think, if you understand what I'm saying, then you're going to see it. I do also think that there's going to be new political ideas, though, that also align for humanity. And they're the replacements. This also means, though, we are not to give in to fear. And we need to ask, can you trust the media and the government instead of going against each other? Because in the US, I see civil unrest, but not physical. And I've got that in predictions coming up because I'm going to split this. Come together with love, come together with communities. I think further down the line, AI could have some replacement or involvement that replaces some government or changes. The changes of the ideas as well over the next 2 years, as soon, that could be trickles of what we see in the next 2 years. And we're also going to have that deeper seeing of who are people that are representing the people truly, and who is representing corporations and their own race at whatever they're trying to do. That is something that's not going to speak to us very well. I do think that there's the beginning of July, there's a bit of upheaval, and I do have dates to give. There is, though, in July more social energy, after the first week especially. And there's a faster energy, but then there's an energy that could feel fast, but it's actually pulling you to slow down from the 16th, 17th, 18th onwards. And it will trickle into some of August. The 3rd and 4th May, you might feel like you want to celebrate. You might have sort of a celebration flair, a creativity, some kind of energizing happiness that's adding to your lives. But then there's a slower pace that I'm mentioning, which could be in your job. It could be in maybe trying to get a contract out or typing some project, and it's just like, it's not saving or stuff like that. There's a slowing down energy, and I'm just giving you kind of examples that you'll just need to see in your individual lives, and it's guidance. You might find that also this July on an individual level brings in sort of you scrutinizing maybe your creativity, whether that's a hobby or whether that's a creative side to something you do at work, or life and the relationships you have and the career, and maybe how courageous you've been or not been, and how decisive you've been or not been recently. So I think that sort of scrutinizing and questioning of oneself could come up. It's in the energy. It's not, if you've noticed, or you will notice, it's no longer the kind of mindset of, I cannot be like, you can't be like, I've got no choice in this, I cannot respond. It's not an energy to be passive and not speak. You can speak without being too woke and pushing forward. your opinion onto someone who doesn't want to buy into it. Um, but you can still be authentic. You can find your feet and stand your ground, your strength in your body, and have strength in whatever makes you feel that you have strength. Recognizing no government and world organization is your hope, is your strength, is your role model. And that energy is not bad or good, negative or positive, but it's also not an energy to isolate yourself, right? Don't misunderstand me in terms of that. But rather also come together in community support. By doing those things that I've mentioned, you stand strong, and then you can come into support of the community and humanity. Without being in that strength of yourself, you can't quite, can you? So through that, you could also see, again, an energy of a lot of unexpected connections and unexpected connections that could come through. We need to know that, I've mentioned about soaring heat waves, and UK, I gave you the heads up, you should have listened. And the other countries, but we've mentioned about the weather, and the planet needs nurturing, it needs our love. I think it was the other day a short popped up, and I just had my phone in my hand. I clicked on it and I wasn't listening while I was doing something, and it was saying about the rising earth temperatures, which seems to still be happening. So that really means that we need to protect habitats and reverse pollution and harm where we can, and that will also help stop some of the chaos, won't it? Now, there is this energy of disruption and violence, and I've mentioned in looking at Israel, Iran, and the other predictions I've done, the dates I would say, in July to look for is, I don't know what's happening astrologically, but I'm just giving you dates that stood out to me. So 4, 5, 7, 9, 10, 13, 17, 18, and I get around the 21st and 23rd. So around those dates, there could be something that comes through. And go back to June read. I mentioned about oil. I mentioned I could see an explosion. And the oil that's under the earth, so the crude oil, there's something around that. I've mentioned about the ocean that could trigger tsunami and earthquake, and Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, that Pacific area needs to really be careful, and it could travel up to the south coast of the US to feel it as well. So that needs to be careful. I also think there's going to be a cut off. I see in some countries a cut off of fuel, and there is something with electricity. Be very careful around electricity after the first week of July. And I do think there's some outage of electricity as well, and disruption that is caused by an electrical issue. And if I see it in the news, I'll let you know. Iran, Israel, I've done a reading, I've mentioned about that and the dates as well. I do think there's another plane that's going to lose navigation, but I am not quite sure if it's July. But I would look out for that. That is a prediction. Trouble on travel transport. I've mentioned that, and I think that's a big one. I do think the internet is going to go down. I do see, I was saying in the last predictions about data manipulation. there's going to be an outage of internet. There is something that's going to go down, and it's really going to cause, well, a stop-in. I'm going to do a reading that focuses on the next 7 years as well as a Q&A. There's definitely the energy of cyber attacks again. So I'm going to leave this one here. I will do another one. I hope you enjoy it. Please do give it a like and subscribe if you do. It doesn't cost a thing, but it lets me know that my energy is worth continuing to give on this platform, because it's free. I'm giving it for free, but it's obviously it takes out of me, and it takes time, and if it's not being enjoyed, subscribers are not coming to watch, then it's not worth the energy, is it, if it's not something that people like. So look out for the next ones, and also the other readings that are coming. I do want to thank, I think it's some really beautiful subscribers that have honestly kept me going, and I'm sure you know who you are. And if you feel that, yes, she's talking to me, or I'm not sure if she's talking to me, it is you. And Spirit has just told me to say that. So, you know who you are. And I truly thank you. And I thank the members, and I thank the OG member from day one. And obviously Patreon was prior to that as well. So thank you to everyone. Someone's getting really comfy over here. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care, and bye for now.